Welcome to the amazing world.
Today we are going to learn about the outbreak of the October Revolution of 1917 and its results. The outbreak of the revolution was the conflict that started between the provincial government and the Bolsheviks. The provincial government was sternly suppressing demonstrators, that is, the Bolsheviks that we learned in the earlier chapter. On the other hand, Bolsheviks were now under Lenin, and Lenin feared the setup of a dictatorship by the provincial government, and as a result, he came with an idea of bringing together the Bolsheviks who supported him from the army, the factory workers, and the Soviets. So once he was able to bring all of them who supported the Bolsheviks under his control, he then went forward. By October 16, 1917, he now persuaded those Petrograd Soviets who were not in government, other than the industrialists who had formed the government. There were other Petrograd Soviets who were left, and so he tried to persuade them to join the Bolsheviks and fight for the seizure of power, a socialist power. As the conflict escalated, Prime Minister Kerensky of the provincial government was sensing some developments taking place within the Bolsheviks. And what were they planning? Lenin was planning secretly for a socialist revolution, as he had already brought in all the Soviets, the factory workers, and the army who supported him, along with the Petrograd's Soviets. On his side, he had now created a military revolutionary committee under the leadership of Leon Trotsky. But Prime Minister Kerensky, who had sensed that there were developments taking place on 24th October 1917, took action, and that was the beginning of an uprising that took place. He left the city and summoned for troops. He asked the men who were loyal to him from the military to seize the buildings of the Bolshevik newspapers, and 2 buildings were seized by the military. He also sent out troops to take over telephone lines and telegraphic offices and to protect the Winter Palace. But within hours, the Military Revolutionary Committee, under the leadership of Leon Trotsky, ordered the seizure of government offices and arrest of ministers. How did he do this? How was that done? Was that the Military Revolutionary Committee under Leon Trotsky had already kept ready the ship Aurora to shell the Winter Palace. As this shelled the Winter Palace, he sent out troops and the military vessels to take over important military points all over Petrograd. And by the night of 24th October 1917, we see that the city of Petrograd is under Military Revolutionary Committee's control, and the ministers are asked to surrender to the military. With this, we see that the Bolsheviks have taken control of Petrograd. Was it done? Not yet. The result was seen only when the All-Russian Congress of Soviets in Petrograd approved the Bolshevik action. And we see that they came together, Petrograd Soviets as well as the Bolsheviks, along with Lenin and Leon Trotsky, now were ready to form the government. But there were still uprisings taking place in other cities which they needed to bring under their control, especially Moscow, which later became the capital of Russia. By December 1917, the Bolsheviks were now able to control the area around Moscow and Petrograd. This is how the October Revolution came to an end. To summarize the October Revolution is that the conflict between the provincial government and the Bolsheviks made the Bolsheviks fear of dictatorship. Lenin, trying to bring together the Bolshevik supporters from the army, the Soviets, and the factory workers. He even went further to persuade those Petrograd Soviets who were not in the government to join the Bolshevik Party and for a socialist seizure of power. So he went about secretly planning the socialist revolution. For this, he created the Military Revolutionary Committee under the leadership of Leon Trotsky and organized the seizure of power. 24th October 1917, we see how Prime Minister Kerensky of the provincial government was sensing developments taking place and so left the city summoning troops. He asked the military, who were loyal to the government, to seize the buildings of the Bolshevik newspapers, and they were able to seize 2 buildings. He also sent out troops to take over telephone and telegraphic offices and to protect the Winter Palace. But on the other hand, the Military Revolutionary Committee, under the leadership of Leon Trotsky, ordered the seizure of government offices and arrest of ministers, and that was done with the ship Aurora shelled the Winter Palace while other vessels took over various military points. By the night of 24th October, we notice that the city of Petrograd is under the control of the Military Revolutionary Committee, and the ministers had to surrender to them. With this, on the very next day, the All-Russian Congress of Soviets in Petrograd approved the Bolshevik action. This brought the end of the October Revolution, but still there were uprisings taking place all over Russia, especially in the city of Moscow, and that was brought under the control of the Bolsheviks by December 1917. Thank you and see you in the next video.